Hello, bookworms. Welcome to Weekend Readers Book Club. Thank you for joining us. In this episode, we have read and are going to discuss the 2022 released mystery thriller novel entitled The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. So The Paris Apartment is a story about a young lady named Jess who travels to Paris to go and see her brother, Ben. Now when Jess arrives in Paris and goes to knock on Ben's door, unfortunately she has no answer. She's in another country, speaks minimal French, has very limited resources, and she's perplexed on why Ben has told her, "Hey, come over to my house," but when she arrives, Ben isn't there. What carries on throughout the story is Jess's adventure in relation to trying to find out where Ben is, what's gone on with Ben, and why. In addition, throughout the book, you get to meet a few characters who live at the same apartment complex as Ben, and throughout their interactions with Jess, she tries to narrow out who may be the best person who would know where exactly her brother is, or maybe they have some information on what exactly has gone on with her brother. Now, reading this book, I had no previous expectations of it. I didn't know who the author was, and the book just came across. I saw the cover on Goodreads and I was like, hey, this cover keeps on popping up on my reading searches, so I'll give it a whirl. This book to me was really well written in the sense that the first third of the book I was finding myself reading more and more and more and more to try and gauge what exactly is the story. The character growth throughout the book was really well done, where it was the first third was sort of setting up the story, the second third was okay, yep, we sort of know what's going on, let's plant the seeds for the end. And then the end comes as the last third. It was very well paced and very well written. And the thing I found different about this book is that each chapter is from a different character's perspective, be it in that moment or past tense, reminiscing about a time that something may have happened, or when they're discussing, how they met Ben, etc. It goes back and forth, especially in real time, between Jess, the main character, and the alternative characters, and I really love that format of this book. I will warn you now that there are a few words of French in here that most of them are translated. However, some aren't, and you sort of just can sort of gauge what they are as the book goes along, or, based on the dialogue that the story is giving you. But overall, this book I really thoroughly enjoyed. One thing I didn't enjoy about this book, though, was, and again, I understand that I'm not a writer. I go into these books with an open mind, and I really enjoyed this story, except for the end. The end let me down. I felt that the end was very flat in comparison to the ride that the 95% of the book that I had just read took me on. While getting to the end of the story was great, and I won't go into how the story ends because that's going to spoil the book if you haven't read The Paris Apartment, but the actual ending of the book, I was like, okay, you're sort of tied up, but I don't know what I was expecting. What I got felt a bit weak. Now again, that's not a knock on Lucy Foley at all, because I mean Lucy Foley has written numerous books and had them published and I haven't. That's just my take in relation to being so engrossed in the story, where I was thoroughly enjoying it until the end. And unfortunately, it didn't spoil the book for me. It just left me wanting more, if that makes sense. So overall, The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley was a very great read to read. If you're on the fence and you're looking at the book going, should I read it, should I not? I would say if you enjoy mystery and thriller books, give it a whirl. As I said, it's written differently where the chapters are from different characters' perspective. And it makes it easy because at the top of the chapter, it tells you what character is, this chapter is about. And yeah, if you can get past the ending, good on you. And I mean, some people may love the ending. I mean, unfortunately for me, I just didn't enjoy it. I felt the payoff wasn't worth what I had invested emotionally into the story throughout the whole, 320, 40, 60 pages or so. So the $1 million question is, will this book be going onto my bookshelf? I can tell you wholeheartedly that up until the very ending, yes it was. When the ending came, I was like, no. So unfortunately, it's not made the bookshelf. The only reason is, if somebody came to me and said, would you recommend reading The Paris Apartment? I would go, yes, great book. I personally didn't like the ending, but you may, but take that with a grain of salt. However, with the books that I have on my bookshelf, it is, am I going to go back in a year, 2 years' time to potentially get the same enjoyment as I got from this book? With the ending being the way it is, unfortunately, I don't think I will. So unfortunately, The Paris Apartment, you do not make my bookshelf. So as is a customs here at the Weekend Readers Book Club, as one book closes, another book has to open. And it is now time to find out what the Weekend Readers, the next readers. Bookworms, we can confirm that the next read for the Weekend Readers Book Club is The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. Now, funny thing about this book, Christina Lauren is two people. I found that fascinating. I don't know if the two people actually co-wrote this book, but in saying that, their Twitter account is two people. So, Christina Lauren, The Soulmate Equation, you are the next read on the Weekend Readers Book Club. So that there covers off the review and discussion of The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, a book 99% I thoroughly enjoyed. Unfortunately, that 1% was the ending that I disliked, but again, that's only my take. Go out and have a read if you're on the fence, or even if you are, even if it is like on the list to read or in your pile to read, pick it up, give it a whirl, and hopefully you will enjoy it too. As we're at the end of our podcast, feel free to follow us. Our socials are Instagram, Weekend Readers Book Club, and YouTube and Spotify, The Weekend Readers. We hope you've enjoyed the review and discussion today of The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. Until next time, thank you again for joining us, and bookworms, happy reading.